Take it away, Daisy. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today in this lovely rainy evening. I'm not sure if it's raining on your side, but it definitely is raining here. Um, if you haven't done so already, just please put your name and organization you're with on the chat box. If you have done so already, thank you very much. Next slide, please. So today's agenda session will be presenting and learning about Pinellas shelter resources and access points for individuals and families experience homelessness in Pinellas County. We do have some presenters today. We will have our coordinated entry system presented by Susan Boylan with the Homeless Leadership Alliance of Pinellas County. We will also have our family shelter waitlist assessment and referrals presented by Chelsea Stevens with 211 Tampa Bay Cares, as well as emergency shelter presented by Joe Pandolfino with Pinellas Hope, is a program of Catholic Charities, and as well as street outreach presented by Officer Jeremy Copeland with the Pinellas Park Police Department. And each of the presentations will take approximately 15 minutes. So after the 4 presentations, we'll be give the opportunity to have some questions towards the end. We do also have a Q&A box. As you know, you can put your questions in there, and we can always, at the end of the presentation, go into the box and read out the questions that you may have so that we have the opportunity to answer some of those questions. And also, just to let you know that we will make sure, oh, sorry, something came up. Oh, okay. We will make sure that everybody gets the slides and the presentation once we finish the presentation. You'll be getting the meeting minutes and the presentation as well. So don't feel worried if you didn't get a chance to write something down. We'll definitely be sharing that with you again. Okay, next slide, please. And again, we always like to remind everybody in order to become a member of the Pinellas Continuum of Care, here's our QR code. Just wanted to make sure that if you are not a member, to please join. If you are a member and you haven't renewed yet, please go ahead and do so. We also have individual membership fees that have been reduced to $20 and scholarships and sliding fees that are available for both individuals and organizational members. And you also, I think I mentioned this in the previous last time that we had this meeting, that we also included youth advocate and grassroots organizations to ensure that everybody has a participation within our continuum of care to end homelessness and work on ending homelessness in Pinellas County. And we also have our email there where you can reach out to Victoria Kelly, and as well as our Pinellas Homeless .org, I was going to say .com, .org, Pinellas CoC. And also this, as you may know, this is our 4th session out of 8 informational sessions with the CoC that are being hosted in 2024. Next session will include resources for families, youth, and seniors experiencing or who are at risk of homelessness or becoming homeless in Pinellas County. So we hope to see you there. That Pinellas County meeting will be, the CoC membership meeting will be hosted at Pinellas County Housing Authority on August 13th. I don't know. Oh, yes, the QR code is there. So if you want to get more information on the meeting details, we do have the QR code on the slide. So you are able to go ahead and scan that as well. And also any upcoming CoC information sessions. Sorry. So now for our first presenter, it is Susan Boylan, Senior Manager of Coordinated Entry with the Homeless Leadership Alliance. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Daisy. And hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Like Daisy mentioned, my name is Suzanne Boylan, and I'm the Senior Manager of Coordinated Entry. I'll be providing a brief overview of coordinated entry, including its definition, the fundamentals of coordinated entry within the Pinellas Continuum of Care, and its overall importance. If you have any questions or inquiries, my contact information will be provided at the end of the presentation. Let's get started. Next slide. All right, so the HLA has three main functions outside of direct service. We serve as the lead agency in Pinellas County's continuum of care. We also serve as a 501c3 contracted by the CoC to focus on identifying gaps in services, CoC program audits, and creating improvements in the system. Lastly, the HLA maintains the Homeless Management Information System, better known as HMIS for Pinellas County. Next slide. So you may wonder, what exactly does the continuum of care do? The Continuum of Care program promotes community-wide commitment to the goal of ending homelessness, provides funding for efforts to quickly rehouse homeless individuals and families to minimize trauma and dislocation, promotes access to and effective utilization of mainstream programs, and optimizes self-sufficiency among individuals and families experiencing homelessness. The nature of the Continuum of Care program is to competitively award grants for new construction, acquisition, rehabilitation, leasing, rental assistance, supportive services, and operating costs for housing units. Also, the Homeless Management Information Systems, project administration costs, and Continuum of Care planning and unified funding agency costs. The HLA, lead agency and collaborative applicant of the CoC's mission is to coordinate all community partners, systems, and resources available with the goal of helping individuals and families to prevent, divert, and end homelessness in Pinellas County. An end to homelessness does not mean that no one will ever experience a housing crisis again. Changing economic realities, the unpredictability of life, and unsafe or unwelcoming family environments may create situations where individuals, families, or youth could experience or be at risk of homelessness. An end to homelessness means that every community will have a systemic response in place that ensures homelessness is prevented whenever possible or is otherwise a rare, brief, and non-recurring experience. Specifically, every community will have the capacity to quickly identify and engage people at risk of or experiencing homelessness, intervene to prevent the loss of housing, and divert people from entering the homelessness services system. Provide immediate access to shelter and crisis services without barriers to entry, while permanent stable housing and appropriate supports are being secured. When homelessness does occur, quickly connect people to housing assistance and services tailored to their unique needs and strengths to help them achieve and maintain stable housing. And this is where coordinated entry comes in. So let's dive into what coordinated entry really is. Coordinated entry is a system that streamlines access and referrals to services and housing. It's a systemic approach to ending homelessness that requires comprehensive coordination of all your housing and services and resources in the community to really better match people experiencing homelessness to the most appropriate housing and service interventions that will rapidly end their homelessness. Through coordinated entry, a CoC ensures that the highest need, most vulnerable households in the community are prioritized for housing and services first. It ensures that all people experiencing homelessness have fair and equal access and prevents people from falling through the cracks. Using a housing first approach means those experiencing homelessness can get housed without any preconditions or significant program participant requirements. Navigating the housing system can be daunting for those experiencing homelessness, and it often feels like a maze, right? So coordinated entry for individuals and families simplifies this by providing standardized access, assessment, and referral for housing placements. This approach ensures that everyone receives appropriate support for both immediate and long-term needs through a client-centered or person-centric process. Before coordinated entry, providers use different forms and assessments, leading to inconsistent decision-making and uneven knowledge about available housing and services within the Pinellas County continuum of care. After implementation, all programs adopted standard forms and a community agreement on triaging based on household needs. There is now a coordinated referral process across the CoC based on written standards for administering assistance. In Pinellas County, providers are forming strategic partnerships to better serve the homeless community using data-driven and evidence-based methods. A robust coordinated entry system is crucial for achieving the goals of the HEART Act and Opening Doors, which is the federal plan to end homelessness. The HEART Act promotes a systemic approach, moving away from fragmented programs to a unified method of matching people with the best available interventions to resolve their housing crisis swiftly. Next slide. So a coordinated entry system must have a housing first approach, must implement uniform tools and decision-making for the CoC as a whole. It must be a transparent process understood by all stakeholders and users. It must prioritize households and individuals versus it being on a first come, first served basis, which allows for an equitable system. It must facilitate the process from entry into the crisis response system to exiting into permanent stable housing. And lastly, a coordinated entry system has 4 core elements. A coordinated entry process includes those 4 core operational elements that I had just mentioned, which are access, assessment, prioritization, and referral. Access is the engagement point for persons experiencing a housing crisis. It could look and function differently depending on the specific community. Persons, such as families, single adults, or youth, might initially access the crisis response system by calling a crisis hotline or other information and referral resources, walking into an access point facility, or being engaged through outreach efforts. Upon initial access, CoC providers associated with coordinated entry likely will then begin assessing the person's housing needs, preferences, and vulnerability. This coordinated entry element is referred to as the assessment. It's progressive with potentially multiple layers of information gathering occurring at various phases in the coordinated entry process for different purposes by one or more staff. During assessment, the person's needs and level of vulnerability may be documented for purposes of determining prioritization. Prioritization helps the CoC manage its inventory of community housing resources and services, ensuring that those persons with the greatest need and vulnerability receive the supports they need to resolve their housing crisis. The final element is referral. Persons are referred to available CoC housing resources and services in accordance with the CoC's documented prioritization guidelines. So I wanted to highlight the designated access points for the coordinated entry system here in Pinellas County's continuum of care. All household types, including youth-only, single adults, adult-only households, which can be non-married couples or friends, LGBTQIA+ households, and households with minor children can access any of these points. Emergency services are available regardless of the coordinated entry system's intake hours. Access points include emergency shelters, street outreach teams, 211 Tampa Bay Cares, HLA's Rapid Resolution Community Navigators, and HLA Veteran Navigators. All Pinellas CoC access points must sign a CE participation agreement with the Homeless Leadership Alliance of Pinellas. Specialized access points are at CASA and Hope Villages to ensure domestic violence survivors receive appropriate services. DV shelter providers conduct the initial CE assessment and refer participants as needed. For homeless veterans, the CoC has a specialized access point at the Homeless Leadership Alliance, which is veteran navigation. And they screen veterans for programs like the Homeless Veteran Grant Per Diem, VA benefits such as HUD-VASH, and supportive services for veteran families, better known as SSVF. Next slide. Pinellas Continuum of Care Coordinated Entry Prioritization policies ensure that households with the greatest needs receive priority for any housing and homeless assistance available in the CoC. Prioritization is based on specific and definable criteria collected via that coordinated entry assessment. Prioritization criteria are separate and distinct from eligibility criteria for housing programs. It is ultimately the provider's responsibility to determine and document an individual or household's eligibility for programs. And prioritization decisions are based on the following identified urgency and vulnerability factors based on assessment information, such as household's length of time homeless. That's determined by the length of time reported during the coordinated entry assessment in combination with a review of their Pinellas HMIS records. And service needs. Service needs are determined by the acuity that's captured in the coordinated entry assessment. When applicable, portions of the assessment targeting the use of crisis services are administered to the head of household if the coordinated entry assessment does not accurately capture the household's needs. And then tiebreakers have been implemented and are used to break a tie between two or more individuals and families. Next slide. Now that we've covered the designated access points within our coordinated entry system, let's discuss why coordinated entry is so important. Next slide. So coordinated entry provides a transparent process to all. Is the path to housing clear to everyone? How are housing resources collected and distributed? What criteria are used to prioritize households? How do providers communicate and make referrals? So coordinated entry makes it easier to access housing and services immediately, increases focus on shared goals. Households will only be referred to projects that they're eligible for. Providers can avoid ineligible or inappropriate referrals. Providers can better manage prospective participants through prioritization. Funders can see increased compliance with eligibility requirements. CoCs have better data and can identify areas of improvement. It increases exits to permanent housing for the whole system, creating system flow and reducing waitlist. And it ensures that no matter where someone gets help, they receive access to the same services and housing that best fits their needs. Lastly, it maximizes resources when people with the highest needs are matched with the most intensive resources. And it's required, right? So coordinated entry is mandated for every continuum of care by HUD, as stated in the statute and rules. Despite this requirement, though, we implement coordinated entry not just because it's enforced, but because it's logical and it's essential, and it simply just makes sense. Coordinated entry is crucial for an effective crisis response system, providing many communities, including ours, the opportunity to reorganize their entire homelessness system. By organizing our community's homelessness system, we are ensuring that resources are allocated to those who need them most urgently. All in all, coordinated entry allows us to provide more targeted and effective interventions, ultimately helping more individuals and families achieve stable housing. Thank you, everyone. That's my contact information. But like Daisy had mentioned in the beginning, I'm sure these slides will be sent out as soon as possible. So you can have that as well.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Victoria, do we have any questions for Susan at the moment?
Um, at this time, we are ready to move on to our next presentation, but I will add any questions that come in to the Q&A for that session at the end.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So next we have Chelsea Stevens from 211 Tampa Bay Cares, and she is, I want to get your title correct, 211 manager.
I am, well, good evening, first of all, and
Good
I
evening.
am 211's homeless helpline specialist.
Oh, specialist. Okay.
Yeah, and my name is Sasha St. Felix. I'm the 211 director.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. So, again, good evening. I am one of two of the specialists with the homeless helpline. I just wanted to well, first of all, I'm glad that I'm able to present, but I just wanted to shed a couple of just some light on 211's role as a homeless helpline. We're essentially the front door for families and individuals that are facing homelessness. So, for starters, our 211 homeless helpline serves Pinellas County residents that are seeking shelter, housing, relocation assistance, and resources. So once a family or individual calls into HHL, which is the homeless helpline, we just use that acronym, a rapport is built and established between the HHL specialist and the client, just to ensure trust and try to get a better understanding of the needs so that the needs are properly addressed, as well as any barriers are identified and can try to be overcome. Once a full picture is painted, information and data is gathered to determine appropriate resources for that client. HHL assists with individuals as well as families. So for individuals, I'm just going to break this up just to kind of create a clearer picture. So for individuals, if an individual were to call in and say, you know, I'm sleeping on the street, or I just got evicted from my home, or I've been staying in a hotel and I can't afford to stay here anymore. So we'll start to build that rapport, we'll start to gather information. And then the caller is educated on a couple of different housing resources that we have. We may have some callers who are facing homelessness that may not necessarily want to go into shelter, or that individual may be looking for low income housing options. So um, if they are interested in shelter, the 4 shelters are educated to that caller. So they would be educated on Pinellas Hope, which we also call Tent City, Safe Harbor, in addition to the 2 in St. Petersburg, which is St. Vincent de Paul, as well as Salvation Army, the individual shelter. If that client is interested in Safe Harbor or Pinellas Hope, aka Tent City, then the HHL specialist would reach out to that shelter directly, have that client added to the shelter intake list, and a referral would be generated in HMIS, as well as a note would be created just so that there is some type of communication between HHL and the shelter. As it pertains to the other 2 shelters, Salvation Army and St. Vincent de Paul, those are typically drop-in shelters. So we still educate the client on the shelter, but let them know the shelter hours and how they can go about getting into those shelters. As it pertains to families, once a family calls in, and if that family is what we call category 1, but that's HUD's definition of homelessness, meaning they are sleeping in a place with their minor children that's not meant for habitation. So in a car or at a park. I've had families sleeping in alleys. I've had some families sleeping in a garage that's in an abandoned house. So just a place not meant for habitation would meet criteria for category 1. That client would be continued to be assessed through HHL. There's a series of assessments that's completed. Once that family is determined to be category 1, then the HHL specialist will complete the shelter presentation screening that is in HMIS, and will link the client to an HLA navigator. And then we would schedule them an appointment with that navigator to be further assessed and eventually placed into a family shelter. Let's see. As it pertains to additional referrals, we also offer families, because I know sometimes families just kind of need a little bit of hope. I know just, being added to a shelter wait list, I know sometimes that's not enough. So we do have a family transition house where it's also located in St. Pete. The family can stay up to 6 months. It's called Florida Resurrection. I've had some families stay there, and I've heard some really positive feedback about the program. Families can stay up to 6 months. There is a little bit of waiting list, but We also educate the family and let them know that that's an opportunity as well. We also have low income housing options in the St. Pete area. So we educate them on that as well. We educate them on relocation fees. Sometimes they say, well, I can't wait, a certain period of time for shelter. I need to get me and my children in a stable home, but I have family in New Jersey. Is there any way that I can have assistance with relocation? And we do have a couple of programs that will help with relocation. FSI Connects helps with long distance bus fare. Daystar helps with relocation, Traveler's Aid. So those are offered as well. Even if it's an individual that doesn't have any children and the individual is facing homelessness, 211 has a financial program where that adult can be screened for relocation fees as well. Then in addition to that, we try to do some diversion services to divert the family from even having to be street homeless. So, for example, if a family is in a home and facing an eviction, we will complete what we call a WUFU form, and it's through HLA as well. And it is essentially requesting diversion funds for past due rent, so that family can stay in the home to prevent homelessness. Or I've had a family who is their lights have been cut off and their water has been shut off just because they can't afford to pay the bill. The bill might have expired. They might be behind a couple of months. And so they're without water and they're without lights or power. And I would complete another WUFU form to prevent them from coming into or from being homeless. So we do use those diversion funds for not only individuals, but as well as families. Same thing, if an individual were to call in and experiencing crisis where they were getting ready to fall homeless, we would complete a WUFU form for if they were behind in their rent or if they are behind in their utilities. Even if we have a caller who is sleeping in the car or sleeping at a park and they have family members, but the family members won't allow them to stay because for whatever reason, if they, have their bills and, they fear that taking on an additional family would just increase their bills and make it unmanageable for them, we offer to pay that family member's bill, whether that's their utility bill or a portion of whatever they would need assistance with in order to maintain that family, to prevent that family from coming into the homeless system. There are a few different options with the diversion funds that we are able to offer the families and individuals. And
I just want to piggyback off what Chelsea shared so far. So for the homeless helpline, their hours of operation is Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. So during that time frame, the homeless helpline, they do conduct assessments. Now, after hours, calls are routed to our after hour team, and they provide information and referrals. In regards to referrals during business hours, households that are that are facing homelessness or unstably housed, but are not interested in shelter placement. As Chelsea mentioned, we do complete a HLA WUFU form or e-referral on their behalf after every conversation we have with anyone. So it doesn't matter if it's during business hours or after hours, we provide referrals based upon the needs that we identified during the call. So we provide the most suitable referrals based upon what their needs are. Sorry, Chelsea, go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah. You're fine. You're fine. And so that's essentially how it's operated for families and individuals. And then in addition, we do just have partnership with outreach. So if a family is also in need or an individual is also in need, we'll reach out. If there's outreach in their city, we would try to link them with that as well. So that's essentially the roles between HHL and the communications and the connections that we have with the individual shelters and with HLA and with street outreach as well. Any questions,
Wonderful.
comments?
Thank you so much, Chelsea and
You're
Sasha.
welcome, Daisy.
Appreciate it.
There were a couple of questions for you, Chelsea and Sasha. One of the attendees messaged me directly to ask, are diversion funds for rent payments through AFAP, the Adult Emergency Financial Assistance Program, or other funds?
So go ahead, Chelsea.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that the funds through AFAP are specifically funds for individuals who do not have minor children in the home. So unfortunately, families wouldn't be able to use the AFAP dollars, which is why we would complete the WUFU form so that the diversion funds can be utilized for the families.
And we also refer them to Family FSI Connects based upon the information they shared. So if they meet the eligibility criteria for that program, we would also provide them the referral.
Thank you. Then also, I just wanted to point out to you both that there is a request in the Q&A box that you reach out to the Pinellas County Schools HEAT team. So that information is there in the Q&A box for you both. And then there are a couple of minutes left. Are there any other questions for Sasha, Chelsea, and 211 Tampa Bay Cares? All right, there will still be an opportunity to continue asking questions at the end, so please feel free to throw your questions into the Q&A box, and we will get to them at the end of the session as well. Thank you very much, Daisy and Sasha.
Chelsea.
Chelsea and Sasha.
You're welcome. I know you did.
Thanks to you too, Daisy.
Anytime.
All right. In that case, Daisy, would you like to introduce our next presenter?
Yes, absolutely. Next slide, please. So our next presenter is the director of Pinellas Hope, a program within Catholic Charities, and Joe Pandolfino. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really pleased to be part of this whole network, and I look at it as we're a piece of the puzzle, just like everybody else in our community. And 211, who just spoke, we use you guys all the time for the AFAB lift, and we use that routinely, and it's very, very helpful. So thank you for having that service. Pinellas Hope has been around since 2007, and we came into existence from we were born out of a crisis, and some of you may remember this, but back in 2007, there were a bunch of tents located in downtown St. Pete, and they were an eyesore, and the mayor didn't want them there, and they had them slashed, and they displaced a whole bunch of people. Well, at the time, they didn't know what to do with it. The Catholic Church stepped in, and the bishop at the time said, well, I have this land up here. Let's put the tents up there and see what we can do. So that's how it started. And it was supposed to be just a 6-month program, pilot program. And we were just going to see how it worked. But that was 17 years ago, and we're still here. And we've grown quite a bit. And, you know, I look at us as just like one of the shelters that are doing the same service, but in our own unique way. We are known as Tent City, though that is not our preferred name. We would much rather be called Pinellas Hope. It became known as Tent City, obviously, because of the tents. And we still do have tents. We have right now a capacity of 255 people here, but it's a combination of tents and cottages. And we're always pushing capacity, but we go through a lot of people here. Today, we admitted 23 new clients today into our shelter, and only, I think, 3 of them have been here before. So that's good in a sense that we're available and we're entering people, but there was 20 people who have never been to the shelter before. So I don't know if they're all that new to homelessness or not, but it's still stays pretty busy out there. So a little bit about our program is that we are a temporary emergency shelter, but we like to think of us as a program also because of all the resources that we have. But I target, when people come in, I target 90 days, and I talk to every new client. I say, let's see what we can do in 3 months. And sometimes that's a big mountain to climb, but with some good participation and some real motivation, we've done real well. Our average length of stay is 117 days right now. That doesn't mean that, that everybody's, getting housed in that frame. We have some people here who have been here a lot longer than that. And that's because they're very vulnerable. I couldn't see them turning them back out onto the street, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing to resolve their housing. So I've had people here for many months, and probably over a year too at times. But our average length of stay is 117 days. Our budget is $2.8 million. And less than half of that, just under $1 million, is funded through Pinellas County and the different cities in Pinellas County. So that means over half of our budget is in-kind donations. And we really couldn't do it without the community. I've worked in this field for over 30 years, and this is the first faith-based program I've worked for. And I have to say that it's been really refreshing because the community really does want to help. We have every one of our meals donated, 365 days a year. Every meal is donated. The different parishes come in, different groups come in, and they'll serve food and cook for us. We could have anything but from like a really great pulled pork meal with lots of vegetables to some days it's skimping a little bit, and we might have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But we feed everybody every day, and we couldn't do it without the goodwill of the community. So that's a really important part of our program, is our connection with the people in the community. What I found was that there's so many people that want to give, so many people that want to donate, but they don't all want to get their hands dirty. So there's so many different ways people can donate, whether it be providing meals, working in our clothes closet, working in our bike shop, coming and doing some mentoring for clients here, or just sending some supplies. That we really rely on that quite a bit. Go ahead, the next slide, please. So you can see the picture of what we were like when we first started, and this was back in 2007, and that's how we got our name, Tent City, right there. And we have this plot of land, and it's adjacent to the Catholic cemetery. So I like to tell people we're still on holy ground here. But all of our tents at that time were placed directly on the ground. And even though it's a nice piece of land here, we are in a flood zone. So it's been a challenge over the years to keep things dry. So now we have them up on platforms. We've had our neighbor, the UPS, do some dredging on their property so we don't get the overflow of their water flow. And so it's improved quite a bit. So, but it's taken a long time to build the infrastructure. And if you look at the next slide, you'll see one of our first buildings was the Welcome Center. And that's as soon as you walk in, that's the building you see. And by the way, many of you have probably come out here before. And if you haven't, I give you an open invitation. I think it's really important to visit the shelters, the different facilities in our community, so you know what each one really feels like and the environment and what we have to offer. So that's an open invitation to everybody. But that was our Welcome Center that was built many years ago. I guess I wasn't here at the time, but it was very well received. When I look back upon it, I wish they built it a little differently. There's not enough room. There's no water. There was no air conditioning. It was just a little room, but it really serves a purpose, and it adds to our character. If you look at the next slide, what would that be? Then a few years later, besides tents, we invested in these, what we call cottages. And we have 96 of these right now. Each one, we have 33 of them, and each one has 3 rooms in it. And what they are is they're just a bed off the floor with air conditioning, a locked door, and a little bit of storage. So it's definitely a step up from the tents. And when we have some people that are more vulnerable, we'll put them in there. But they're definitely, especially in the summertime with all the weather. But it's a very, you know, there's no frills to it. It's just a small room off the a bed off the floor in a small room. So, but each one of those was donated in the beginning, and they cost about $30,000 to $40,000 a piece. And what they are is renovated shipping containers, and they work. We have another shelter over in Tampa now that we've used a different model. They're pallet shelters. So they just started. We'll see how that works, but I like these right here. You can go to the next slide. And that's our footprint right now. So if you can see, we're on about 9 acres of land, and we have many different structures now. We have our main deck, we have laundry rooms, we have bathrooms, showers, computer rooms, and you'll see from the aerial photo that that's the whole footprint. That's a little bit older. It doesn't have all of our buildings on there now, but the first half of it is our shelter, and the second half in the back, that's our permanent supportive housing apartments. Next. We also coordinate with Baycare, and we have a medical respite program. It's for people who are in the hospital that are homeless, that have had a surgery, had some type of procedure, and that they're ready to be discharged, but they're not really ready to go back on the street. So we can put them up in one of our cottage rooms, and we have a full-time nurse. We have nurses here 7 days a week who will help manage their recovery as our case managers work on their housing. It's a really valuable program. I work really close with St. Anthony's, and they're so dedicated to us that it's just, you know, I really value our partnership with Baycare. Next. Of course, you've seen this. This is the sometimes running MMU bus that comes here whenever it's working properly, but they come here every week, every Wednesday, and it's one of the sites that they share with us. And as most of you know, people with county health insurance can go get some of their medical attention there at this bus. Next. And not to ignore the value of our volunteers. We couldn't do it without volunteers. We have so many different people who want to be involved. These are pictures from years ago. I don't even know who these people were, but every week we have different volunteers come, and anything from like working in the clothes closet to serving meals to cutting hair to cleaning up to, you know, it's just pretty phenomenal. This year we had a Eagle Scout candidate who was doing their Eagle Scout project. And a lot of times they've come and they've done things like built shelves for us or built those little library stores. But this one guy, this young man came in with his parents, and what he did was he organized a 5K run for his Eagle Scout project. So we got a bunch of people, he got a whole bunch in his troop and all their families, and they did a Pinellas CoC Eagle Scout 5K run. So now it's supposed to be an annual run that people have just, they found their way to volunteer. They found their way to give to our community and help the homeless. So it's really a fantastic thing. Next. And that is our clothing closet. I told Janet, who has been working with us for 13 years, that I would not say her name, but that's her right there, helping someone in our clothing closet. And she is like an anchor. If you ever come to Pinellas Hope, she will be greeting you most likely at the Welcome Center, and she's just dynamite. One thing I would say about why I like my program here so much is that the staff here are just fantastic. They're all mission driven, and they're all here because this is where they want to be. And I'm short staffed, so I still need some more people, but the ones that are here, I couldn't ask for better people. And I think that's what really makes this a good piece of the puzzle. Okay, next. That's our bike shop. If people are here and they are working at least 20 hours a week and they need transportation, we will give them a bicycle. All they have to do is buy a lock and it's theirs to keep. And as long as I've been here, which is almost 4 years, we've never run out of bicycles. We get these donated also. They kind of just appear. There's different programs out there like Bikes for Christ. They come and donate bicycles to us, and different people in the community know that we have this program. So it really is a valuable tool. Next. And that's just kind of like a picture of what we look like now. We are faith-based. We are Catholic Charities, though I don't think I have any staff who are actually Catholic, to tell you the truth. But we are Catholic Charities. And that's a picture of Bishop Parks there. And I always repeat what he says, which I think it's just a great philosophy. He says, we don't serve them because they're Catholic. We serve them because we're Catholic. And I just translate that to, we don't serve them because of who they are. We do that because this is who we are. And that is our mission here. That's the kind of staff that we need in places like this. The people that are really drawn to, that are called to this type of service. So next. Oh, this is just a list of some of our partnerships. What I'd like to say is that we're kind of like the field of dreams here, is that we build it and everybody else comes. People in the community that have programs that work with homeless, they know where to find the homeless. They're here. They're at Safe Harbor. They're at St. Vincent de Paul. They're at Salvation Army. So this is a contact point for people. This is where people can find the clients that they're trying to work with. And we have a whole list. This is just a partial list of all the different partnerships we have. I'll mention all the different outreach people we use. St. Pete Outreach, Clearwater, Copeland with Pinellas Park, Largo, Safe Harbor, 211. Everybody refers to us. And now we also have the Brigade, which is a Metropolitan Ministries program. So that's the avenue to get into our program, is to be referred by one of these places according to where they live. So if somebody calls, I'll say, well, what city are you in? And it's, oh, I'm in St. Pete. We'll call Officer Pony or call April and let them put you on the list. They get credit for it. They'll give them the kind of rundown of what to expect, and then we'll get them here on intake day. If they don't live in one of those areas, Lucero from Metropolitan Ministries has been really good to take everybody else and make a referral. 211 does so. And also, we always make exceptions. I'll do some right off the cuff. If I get an email and someone needs to come in right away, we definitely make exceptions. It's only a phone call away. Our intakes are normally on Tuesday, but if anybody does have a special case, you can always reach out to us, call me, and we'll get somebody in here as soon as possible. Next. Oh, that's what the cottages look like now. Those are our coveted rooms during the summer months. Next. This just kind of shows the cost of what it takes to put somebody in jail as opposed to putting them at Pinellas Hope. It's a lot cheaper to put them in shelter than it is to put them in jail. So with the task force now talking about the anti-camping law, this is a really important point, is that, let's support the shelters. Let's get as many capacity as we can and make it available to as many people as we can. Next, that might be it. I think that's it. Is that it? Okay.
I think so.
All right. All right,
Thank you
well,
so much, Joe.
you're welcome.
And I know Joe sent out the invitation, and I did go and did a tour with Joe and really got to know all of the space that he had and got to see it firsthand, and it's amazing. Definitely take the time to go do a tour. It's amazing work that's happening there, and the more we can support, the better. So thank you so much for your presentation, Joe.
Sure.
Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I see a question of what are the hours of operation, or hours of intake. Usually it's on Tuesday. That's the main intake day. And I want people to be here by 7:30. It really starts at 8, but the earlier you're here, the better. We go through our list. Everybody sends referrals into our admin person, Jody. We could have like 140 referrals, and she's got to go through each one. And the only disqualifying criteria is a sex offender. We will take anybody else, and we'll, look at anybody else to come in. But she goes through each one just to see if just to rule that out. So it takes a lot of work, because we do get a lot of referrals every week. But we take in as many people as we can, and keep them coming.
Yeah. And I think we have some more questions, but we'll address them after this presentation, and then we'll have some more time for Q&A. But thank you, I appreciate it. Those are really great questions.
Sure.
Thanks, Joe. So now our next presenter from the Homeless Street Outreach Officer, Jeremy Copeland of the City of Pinellas Park.
Good afternoon. How you guys doing? I am Officer Copeland with the Pinellas Park Police Department. I'm actually I'm part of the community policing unit, but I'm my own entity when it comes to that. I don't have a district. I'm pretty much citywide. So me and my partner Rick, who works for Directions, we go out and kind of deal with pretty much anybody that is, homeless, unsheltered, or who gives us a call to kind of keep them from becoming homeless. Our program is funded pretty much by the police department. When I say that, pretty much that is just like salaries and stuff like that. We don't really have a budget or a funding for clothing and stuff like that. So everything that I collect is donated. Everything that we give out, I have a bunch of clothes and stuff inside the office. I have food. I have backpacks, walkers, canes, pretty much blankets. A million blankets. But those are things that are all donated. So pretty much me and Rick's day to day, we more so do encampments in the wooded areas. One of the reasons being is because, the same crimes that happen in quote unquote, society, they happen in those encampments, and it's a lot harder to find people when they need help or when they're having some kind of medical emergency. So we try to go out and, basically offer them resources, offer them, shelter and stuff like that to kind of bring them from other locations. I think one of the biggest issues is that a lot of the homeless issues, they have some kind of law enforcement aspect to them, which brings us into it. So usually I'll let Rick go out and handle it, try to talk to people, but I have to come behind him sometimes and say, hey, this property owner doesn't want you here. We're telling you have to go, or with some of the new legislation and ordinance and stuff like that, we're right now we're out passing out flyers in reference to this new law. But so like I said, everything that we do is donated or is just through connections that I made with local agencies, charities, churches, not non, just regular community members, because that's one of the things that I believe is that it takes the whole community to have some buy-in in this. So we probably get about, I say it's close to about 200 people off the street a year into some kind of shelter. Shelter, if it's not Pinellas Hope, St. Vincent de Paul, Salvation Army, HEP, or PIMS now has a program for vets that I've gotten a couple people in that that have been super successful in this program. Actually, the last guy got in, now he's living in a group home in Madeira Beach, just like work stay type deal, but he's going to be there for a year and a half. And he calls me all the time and tells me how much he loves it. So, uh, and I think it's important, like Joe said, hey, we have to get out and visit these places that we're referring people to. Uh, One thing, if when I meet new people or people say, hey, I have this program or this is what I'm doing. Me and Rick are going to check it out because I don't want to refer people to a place that, I wouldn't go to. It's some of these places, that we've been to have been, you could just tell that they probably don't have the best interests of, helping people or getting them access to resources that you would want. So we don't refer them to places like that. We'll tell them about it, but I'm not going to refer them to them. Prime example, I just met with Healing Pinellas yesterday. I met him at a festival we were having. He was like, "Hey, can you stop by my office and I'll tell you what we do." And so we went by there. He gave me his card. He tells me he does Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, all that stuff, which is all the stuff that we need. And it's kind of hard to get people to or have people say, hey, you need to go to this place on Monday, you need to go to this place on Tuesday to they have a brick and mortar. They can go down there throughout the week and get access to that. And they get a free cell phone now. So that was actually pretty impressive. So he said, they're able to pick up free cell phones. So we assist with mostly individuals. Our directive with families is to contact 211, which has helped out a lot now. It's definitely helping out a lot more. Like I said, we don't have any funding. We don't have access to the hotel vouchers and all that stuff. So it definitely helps. That 211 is kind of leading that. Now we what's I say? Oh, we provide resources for jobs too. We meet with temp agencies, regular businesses. We have people that come into the annex all the time and say, "Hey, I have a guy who right now who deals with boats. He rehabs boats and stuff like that, and he's looking for workers. And he's like, hey, if you got anybody that you think will be a great employee, send them my way, and we'll hire them on the spot." So we like I said, it takes a community to have a buy-in in this to you know solve this issue. But me and Rick, we've probably been together for about, let's say, about 3 years. He's huge in this program because, one, I receive so many phone calls a day for resources. So trying to sit on the phone and hear everybody's life story and then offer them services, it takes a lot of time. So Rick is he's definitely there to help me. And so with him, like I said, me and him are usually out in the Polaris, out in the woods, trying to get people into these different programs. I work really closely with Joe from Pinellas Hope. I love Pinellas Hope. It is by far, one of the better programs in the county. And we see that when we talk to people that have, been to the program or left the program because they got into their own, own apartments and stuff like that. Um, as far as everything else, like we as far as like Rick, he does deal with mental health stuff like that. We help with crisis intervention and crisis intervention and substance abuse support. So we offer and refer people to substance abuse programs, especially because my thing is, I much rather, if you have a substance abuse problem, I'd much rather get you to a residential substance abuse program instead of sending you to just a regular shelter. But it's just based on what comes open first. Um, and we deal with a couple programs for stuff like harm reduction, Narcan, needles, our needle exchange, and some of the other things that are needed to basically keep them safe when they're out on the street. Something that people don't think that we do is for our most of the clientele that we deal with is advocacy and policy support. So we go to these different conferences, meetings, and stuff like that. I just went to one with the Catholic Charities, talked about advocacy for, uh, speaking, getting out and talking to your local legislator and stuff like that. Um, you know, although I'm in law enforcement and stuff like that, you know, I can definitely see the other side of that. And, you know, I have plenty of, you know, people that are pretty much homeless by choice. You know, they just like living this lifestyle. And now, you know, it kind of messes that up for them now with you know, some of the legislation that's coming down. But you know, that's one of those things we go out and, you know, like I said, I when I go out to, you know, say parks or, you know, from community members that complain about stuff like that, as long as we're doing things right, you know, I'll back you all day. But it's when we kind of step outside of that that we have to address it. Um, you know, we definitely take a proactive effort to connect like the homeless individuals with where they at and try to build trust. And oh, my computer just oh so but yeah, you know, so we take a proactive effort to connect with the homeless and try to build trust and encourage them to access the available services. Um, and like I said, we go out to people multiple times. Hey, we you know, we want to take we will you take services? We need to get you to a shelter before we have to take some kind of enforcement action. You know, we have some properties. I had a property that 14 people were living on at one time, and out of 14, only one said, "Hey, if you can get me back to Mesa, Arizona, I'd like to," which we did. You know, we were able to get him a Greyhound to a family member in Mesa, Arizona. He went back, but you know, the 13 people that left, they left 26,000 pounds of trash on this lady's property. So now she has to, you know, shell out the money to have it cleaned because code enforcement is, you know, this is going to find her every day until she cleans it up. So that's what we try to get ahead of, is having to deal with the complaints and backlash from property owners because we are not taking I guess, an aggressive or direct approach when it comes to dealing with some of our homeless clientele. Um, we also work with HLA. I get to go to some of their meetings and stuff like that. But the only problem with this, with being a homeless outreach officer and being a police officer, is I still have to worry about call for service and stuff like that. So I get kind of tied down. But for the most part, I'm here Monday through Thursday, 10 to 8. My phone number, I can put in the chat. But if you have anybody that is in Pinellas Park that needs services, they can always contact me. Pinellas Park's very unique because we're 16 square miles, but we have 2 mental health facilities that are in our area, and then we're the first place south of the jail and safe harbor that sells beer. So we get all of that coming into the city every day. So we try to address it as best we can, offer services. We actually send a lot of services, the mobile crisis unit, the mobile medicine unit up to these areas that we know that we have a huge congregation of homeless people so that they can also access resources. Like I said, I'll put my information in the chat. If you need anything, reach out to me, and I appreciate it.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Thank you so much, Officer Copeland. This is really informative. We really do appreciate all the great work that you're doing. And thank you for attending our many, many meetings at HLA. We do appreciate all of the feedback and everybody that is knowledgeable on helping the homeless. It's really important to have everybody's voice present. So we do appreciate everybody here. Okay. I believe we have a couple of questions. Let me see. I'm just going to go into the Q&A box real quick. I think there was one for Joe. Michelle Dunaway asked a question. Who stays in the cottages and who is assigned to the tents? Just curious if there was a distinction when referring clients.
Sure. Well, like I said before, especially in the summer times, those cottages are pretty coveted. So a lot of people want to go into them. When people first come into the shelter, they usually start in the tent, unless they're really vulnerable and we figure like they can't get up off a mat. We'll put them in a shelter, in a cottage. We do ask for a nominal program fee for the cottages, just because it costs a lot of money to keep them updated and the upkeep of them all. So there is a fee for that. It's $200 for the month. However, probably half of them are charity cases. If they don't have any money, I'll definitely give some out for that. But it's really a first come, first serve for the cottages. Right now, I have about 5 people waiting to get in a cottage that's in a tent right now. There's a good turnover there. So within a few days, probably one of the cottages will open up. But to answer your question, they usually start in a tent. And then once they get in here and get admitted, if they want a cottage room, they can just let us know and we'll put them on the list for it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were some questions sent privately to Victoria, but there was a question regarding what is the process for getting a bike at Pinellas Hope?
Getting a bike?
Yes.
You got to be working at least 20 hours a week, and we'll just confirm that you do have a job, and then we'll give you a bike. That's basically it. We don't give them out to everybody because everybody will take one, and sometimes they can disappear and get sold that way. But so we try to do our best with just like they really are needed. But it's for people who are working and need that transportation.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
There is also another question by Catherine Kelly. I think there was mention of getting a free cell phone and they missed the contact information for receiving a free cell phone. I'm not sure if that was Officer Copeland who mentioned that.
Yeah, so that the organization is called Healing Pinellas. Their brick and mortar or location is at 4400 66th Street North in St. Petersburg, Florida. So it's right next to the Harbor Freight on 66th Street. It's in that same plaza. But I met the guy who's in charge. His name is Chris. He has I don't know if you can see these flyers, but he's been passing out these flyers, and they literally say, "Need a free cell phone? Leave with one in your hand." And then on the back, it talks about EBT, Medicaid, Medicare, the food pantry directory, and that they're the official partners with the Department of Children and Family.
Wonderful, thank you. Was there another question, Victoria, that I missed? I think there was one for Cezanne.
There was.
Okay.
There was. I got a message from one of our partners for Cezanne. Is coordinated entry only required for rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing, or also for shelter access in HUD's regulations?
Hi, can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so how do I say this? One moment, I'm sorry. I just need to think really quick how to answer this question. Okay, so all COC and ESG funded projects or subrecipients of COC and ESG funded projects are required to participate in coordinated entry. However, the COC also works with local projects and funders to facilitate their participation in the coordinated entry system. So coordinated entry being it's the best practice, ESG funds, ESG funded projects and subrecipients of ESG, in addition to COC, it's not only exclusive to COC and ESG, right? So it's required, but then a COC makes its own requirements and will collaborate with local funders. And in our continuum of care, the family shelter kind of like list, right? And that process, we have those specific coordinated entry like MOU set in place because there's been agreements that has been made for that particular process. Now, there's no agreement for like individuals seeking shelters per se, because I don't even know the history of it, to be completely honest. But I hope that makes sense. So all COC and ESG funded projects are required to participate in CE. but COCs work with local projects and those funders to facilitate their participation. So if there is a grant or a contract or a program and the funders are like requiring that particular provider to participate in coordinated entry, then the provider must adhere to the funders, you know, like the funder. Does that make sense? Did I explain that properly? In a digestible manner? I apologize.
I think so, Suzanne.
Okay. Okay.
Daisy, there was also a question from Lottie Cuthbertson. Lottie Cuthbertson, a
Victoria,
former.
you know my name.
I know, I tripped up there. I apologize, Lottie. Lottie is a former COC board member. Thank you for joining us today. And Lottie was wondering, are the people chosen to stay in the cottages, Joe, assessed by the medical staff for determination?
Am I on mute or no? I'm okay.
No,
No,
you're good.
no, they're not. They're only assessed for their medical need if they're in our medical respite program. If they come into one of the 10 cottage rooms for the medical respite program, they have to be screened by our nurse first. But everybody else it's you know, they don't assess them. I have a 94-year-old lady here. I have a 90-year-old man. I have an 80-year-old man. I have an 84-year-old man. I have 2 other people in their 80s. That's about as much assessment as I need for those folks that I was going to give them a cottage. So there's no formal assessment, but we look at their needs. We look at their vulnerability.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I didn't see any other ones on the QA box.
I haven't received any others yet.
Okay. Well, if there are no further questions, I just wanted to say thank you so much for everybody who's presented and for taking the time to showing what your amazing teams do and the great work that you're doing for Pinellas County. We really do appreciate that. We wouldn't be able to do this work without you. So now we just wanted to take a couple of minutes to see if there was any items that you wanted to share. You can raise your hand or just put it on the chat, and any type of public comment or any other resources that you may want to share to the group. Okay, I don't think we have any.
I haven't received any. Daisy, if it's okay, I would like to share something and
Sure.
just make sure that folks know, COC members, there is a training opportunity available on Monday. The motivational interviewing and stages of change training will take place virtually at, I believe, 10 a.m. on Monday, June 17th. The information is available on the HLA's calendar, so please sign up for that, COC members. Additionally, if you are a COC member who did not attend Housing First training, there is information, resources, and a recording of that available. Please feel free to reach out to me or the HLA team, and we will be happy to share that with you.
Yes, and we also sent out a reminder today, just letting you know that NOFO season is coming up and we do have an information session next week. If you have not registered as well, that is on our website on HLA. Okay. Well, once again, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to all of the amazing presenters. We really do appreciate you. Thank you for sharing this. Oh, sure, go ahead.
Oh, you changed the screen. I was going to tell them that picture is me up there with the pretty
Oh,
no, just
see, you're still with us.
yeah.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed everyone. It's a wealth of information. They're doing some great work for the homeless, and I applaud all the programs. Thank you so much for what you do.
Yes, I second that. We cannot do this work without our providers and without the support. We're all in the same mission together to end homelessness, and we need to support each other and collaborate with each other in order to strive for that mission. So we really do appreciate that. And with that being said, I just wanted to wish everybody a really great evening, and hopefully we'll be talking soon. And if there's any other information that you may need, we will be sending out the presentation and any meeting minutes as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Victoria Kelly or myself, and then we will answer any questions as possible. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.